This is WGRG 100.5 FM, where we meet the absolute minimum FCC broadcasting standards. It's time to hang on and brace yourself for a community radio program that's frankly indescribable. Let's talk Geneseo. Two guys with nothing better to do on a Friday morning but to talk about our community. Geneseo City Administrator Brandon Meglin and City Alderman Keith Kennett. And yeah, nobody, and I mean nobody, puts the blah in blah, blah, blah like these guys do.
And I'm the first guy of that duo. Keith Kennett here with you this morning. Brandon, the other guy on the other microphone here in the broadcast, the Geneseo High School Broadcast Operations Center, deep in the, if the school had bowels, it would be here.
We're not in the basement, but...
Yeah, I'm not even sure if there is a basement.
Oh, yeah.
But if there were, we'd be there, so maybe that is the answer to it. But anyway, Good Friday morning to our listeners and viewers watching the live stream. Good morning always to you, Brandon, and this sunny Friday here in wonderful Geneseo.
Yeah. Did you do anything interesting this week?
No, nothing too exciting. Kind of a busy week of live broadcasts going on.
Oh.
You know, we try to cover a lot of the sports, and we're usually thought of in the fall. You know, football and lots going on at that time of year. But actually, from an operational standpoint, the spring is the one that's the most challenging. Kind of doing baseball and softball and soccer. We try to cover as much as we can, so it makes for some busy weeks. And it was one of those weeks this week where I actually had to write some notes.
No.
So that I didn't get things confused.
Yeah. Well, we got out to a couple events locally. Yesterday was the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast at First United Methodist, I believe, on Park Street. Really nice presentation. Detective Jamie Shoemaker was the keynote speaker there. For the rest of us that have to do public speaking from time to time, she kind of puts us to shame, especially myself. She's got a great presentation on the impact program at the police department, and that was her focus yesterday at the breakfast as well, and it was a really nice event. We also got out to Team WTI celebrated their 20th anniversary out on Wolf Road. The Chamber had kind of a business after hours out there for them, and so congratulations and thanks for having that to Kim Galing and the team at WTI. That was a nice event for a beautiful night outside.
Well, an impressive accomplishment for Team Websites to Impress, I believe, is what the acronym represents, and it's been a member of the community, the business community, for a long time, but 20 years. I guess it has been that long.
Yeah. They also she also runs Pink Prairie Gardens out there, and they're the ones who do the downtown, the beautiful bubblegum pink flowers that we do downtown. So those things are growing nicely in the greenhouse right now and should be coming out. I think next week we have slated to get those out, always before Mother's Day, downtown. So
awesome. Yeah. Well, with that, we have a new guest with us this morning, and then you'll also hear a familiar voice. But as I usually do, we turn the steering wheel over to Brandon.
Yes, fortunate to be joined by two great guests today. Mark Gravicheski, Let's Talk Money with Mark. Also have Andrew Stutzky here from WQAD. He's a meteorologist, also lives here in Geneseo. So strolled over this morning to the studio, first-time guest. As always, when Mark's here, you know, we like to open it up with Mark, kind of find out what's going in the world of finances and economic conditions. Today, you know, we were talking a little bit before the show about minimum wage and what's going on there. I know we've touched on it when we've had Mark in previous months here recently. The thing recently that we've seen since the last time Mark was here is this $20 an hour minimum wage movement in the state of California.
Yep, out in California.
So tell us about that, Mark. And, you know, I guess it feels very far away, but they have a
close
trickle effect across the country.
It really does kind of have that trickle effect. But, you know, first off, this new law, which actually went into effect on April 1st, it really targets those national, you know, fast food chains. You know, think of McDonald's and Chipotle, KFC, Dunkin' Donuts, and so many of those other name brand national change that we're so familiar with. And what it does, it raises the minimum wage from $16 an hour up to $20 an hour for those fast food workers. So essentially what it does in California, it really creates this almost like a two-tiered structure of minimum wage. First, you have this $20 an hour minimum wage for those, those few individuals that do work within that fast food sector. But then you also have the $16 minimum wage that's standard throughout the state of California for the rest of the employees. But one of the biggest criticisms, we're kind of hearing about this new $20 minimum wage is that, for many of these, high-end luxury, fancy fine dining restaurants, those restaurants are actually excluded from having to pay this $20 minimum wage.
And why is that?
Oh boy, Brandon!
Did he open up a can of political worms?
Brandon asked, not me.
Well, hey, full transparency. That's what this is all about. This was kind of initiated by California Governor Gavin Newsom. He does actually have ownership interest in a number of these high-end luxury fancy restaurants. Interpret it as you may or as you want to.
Well, hopefully he's not listening this morning. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't listen to our program. But.
And that doesn't help things, though, from your views on what the minimum wage should be. Can be your own opinions,
yeah.
but there is nothing more frustrating, I think, to citizens or taxpayers or what have you, or businesses or fill in the blank. But if it's uniform across everyone,
yeah.
then there does seem to be a fairness component to it. But when you kind of start picking and choosing, that if you're at Burger King, you should get $20 an hour, but if you're at Panera, which is the one that gets
yeah.
kind of highlighted the most,
yep.
well, no, they're your 15, and you go, what? Why would that have any distinction on it for whatever your reasons are for raising the minimum wage? But it just seems that a lot of these financial decisions are complicated or influenced by factors other than strictly financial.
Yeah, and kind of to your point there, that's kind of one of the what they're seeing out there is there are exclusions, obviously, even within the fast food chains and businesses that are supposed to be compliant with this new $20 minimum wage. It's almost trying to analyze and interpret, which businesses and employees are subject to this new wage and which aren't. So it's really kind of become a convoluted process in trying to navigate this new minimum wage law.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't take away the beautiful weather that California does have. It is a lot of natural beauty and stuff. But but yes, there are some things that you just kind of question. But as a business, though, that is something. If you're in California, it's not like you're going to say, "Well, I'm not going to." Honor that. You need to comply, and it just probably adds just another layer of complexity in just trying to operate a business. And you have your employees you're trying to, take care of, but then I'm sure somebody makes the Burger Master 2000 or something that automatically flips a burger, and then before you know it, maybe it's a $20 an hour job, but instead of 20,000 of them, there's now 5,000 of them.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, just got a text from Chamber Director Zach Sullivan, who said he has Gavin Newsom on line 1 for us.
Oh,
so.
Great.
Keith, if you want to go ahead and load that in.
You're the local city alderman, so I mean, this goes to you.
And we can honestly say we have a technical problem and really wouldn't be able to put that on air, but just send us an email, Gavin.
Unfortunately, the lines are down this morning.
So, Andrew and I were clear. We're just simply, quote-unquote, guests.
Yeah. All right.
But I guess, Mark, and of course this gets political quick, but as impact to the state of Illinois or the city of Geneseo, when you do have many small businesses, small family-owned businesses here, can you talk about the impact of wages like this and what it actually does to maybe a business that has one or two employees?
One of the commonalities we're seeing from these rising wages that impacts both, especially in Geneseo, you consider more of your local mom and pop stores, but even it does extend into the larger, big box retailers, is what we call wage creep. So when you start introducing these rising minimum wages to essentially, for the most part, to basic entry-level positions, what typically happens is you get other employees to say, okay, look, you're paying this entry-level person, $15 an hour, $20 an hour, whatever that minimum wage is for this entry-level position. But hey, look, I bring added skills or experience, or maybe I'm in some type of supervisory role. I should be making, $30, $40, $50 an hour.
Yeah.
How are you going to address, my skill set now? But one of the biggest challenges, to these rising wages, and I really don't want to go down that political road, but it's an actuality when with these smaller businesses, when it comes to budget. Look, when you have Amazon and many of these other big box retailers, these companies literally spend billions of dollars each year on technology, on artificial intelligence, on robotics. And ultimately, all that capital infusion has the ultimate goal of what? Of reducing labor impact, of eliminating employees and replacing it with technology. And in the end, it reduces their relative labor cost compared to everybody else. And a lot of these, or many of these, smaller mom and pop retail stores, one, they just don't have that budget, and two, they just don't have that level of expertise.
Yeah. Yep. Excellent. Well, thank you, Mark. We're going to steer the ship towards Andrew now, because we want to make sure we have a lot of content this morning. And Mark was nice enough to, we were just talking, Mark's really kind of, he's a monthly guest, and he's also kind of being our, what do you call it, the show booker?
Yeah.
I don't know what the TV terms are.
Andrew,
for these
I collect
things,
a fee for everyone that I bring to this show, by the way. Full disclosure.
And that's how we do it. We bring you in, simple, just interviewing. Then we make it multiple times, and then assign other responsibilities.
But my
to
fee
you.
is
So thank you,
actually
Mark.
paid in coffee. Just to.
Well,
I can do that.
Yeah, that's
As many people know that probably watch WQAD, Mark has a reoccurring segment there. I think it's weekly on TV,
every
right?
Monday, 6:15, Your Money with Mark. So I've known Andrew and had the pleasure of working, within the WQA studio for. This January will be my 7th year of doing Your Money with Mark and within the WQA studio, and I've just always really enjoyed my time there and working with Andrew. So I thought he would just be a fantastic guest for us.
Yeah. So as always, Andrew, the first time somebody's on, we of course like to put you on the spot. If you could give us a little bit of and you're used to this, of course, but a little bit of an introduction on who you are, what got you into this field, and what brought you to Geneseo too. You're a Geneseo resident.
I am. That's right. Yes. So happy to be here. Easy commute for me this morning, and I got to sleep in for 4 hours, which is fantastic.
yeah. All right.
So thank you for that. That helped me out a lot. But my story is pretty simple. Early on, it gets a little complex as I got into college, but I, growing up, just was terrified of storms, and I know a lot of people even today that have storm anxiety. Anytime we talk about a red zone on a map or severe weather, when is it going to hit my house? Are we going to get a tornado today? That kind of thing. So what I did is, as I got older, I just kind of harnessed that anxiety and just curiosity. Why do some storms produce tornadoes and others don't? Why do some storms have hail and a whole bunch of rain and lightning and others don't as well? So that curiosity just kind of drove my passion. And you can ask my parents, the television growing up was constantly on the Weather Channel 24/7. I had the forecast pretty much memorized every single day, in and out. So took that passion. I decided that's what I wanted to do early on. Grew up watching this station that I'm on right now, WQAD. In fact, Neil Castor was my prodigy, if you will. He was my absolute role model growing up. And he really kind of solidified when I got to meet him my sophomore year of high school that this is what I want to do, and this is actually the place that I want to end up doing it eventually when I can get that opportunity. So it's kind of come full circle for me. I have to pinch myself every time I go to work and I run into James Zaharin. I'm like, I work with this man. Like, he's my boss right now. And I grew up watching him too. So it's surreal. It really is surreal.
Yeah. Makes me think of Mayor Sean Johnson here in Geneseo. I remember him telling a story one time about that he took meteorology classes at Blackhawk College, and Neil Castor was a professor there, an adjunct professor at Blackhawk, and that I think he said that was one of his favorite classes when he was at Blackhawk. So
yes, it is really, really exciting. It's an exciting field. It never changes. Like when I go to school talks, I tell kids, it's a job that is different every single day. While we may be doing the same process every day, I'm not forecasting the same weather every day. Yep. It is constantly changing. And then you were asking why I chose Geneseo. So I grew up in Sterling. I know big rivalry. You know, I don't dare put a Golden Warrior flag in my front yard because I may not have a house to return to when I get back from work. But I chose Geneseo because it reminded me a lot of Sterling. It's quiet, great community. There's so much going on. When I participate in your Christmas activities every year, my mind is just blown as to how many people show up. They come here, they show up, they participate. So, you know, that first year that I was here and within my house, it solidified the fact that this was the right choice. And not to mention, thank you, Henry County, for the lower property taxes compared to the Quad Cities. I'll throw that in there, too.
There you go.
That always helps, too.
Yes.
Good job, Keith.
We like positive commentary on our taxing here. This is great.
We'll have to invite Andrew back.
This guy tells us how great we are.
I know. It's fantastic.
He's the best guest ever.
Good job, Mark.
Yeah. Move over, Mark.
I get two cups of coffee for bringing this guest in today.
So I guess a little bit about maybe, you know, the kids that are out there who have a similar interest to you or hear you talk in some of the school programs. I know you're heading off to a school after this. So what does that educational journey look like to actually become, you're a certified meteorologist. Is that the correct terminology?
Exactly. Yep. I'm a broadcast certified meteorologist. And it's not an easy path. I did not take the traditional, let's go to college 4 years after high school, because it's very math intensive. It's very science intensive. Two things that I was terrible with in school. When I graduated high school, I started off community college. I was in like the lowest math class you could possibly take in terms of the difficulty of it. So that's how bad I was at math. Nobody's particular fault. Some of us are left brain. Some of them are right brain. I'm definitely more right than left brain. But so my total journey took about 10 years to get where I am today. And there's many reasons for that. One of them, I chose to do community college first, but I also chose to work full time while I was going to college. That kind of saved me when I graduated because I was one of the few in my class that graduated with zero student loan debt, which totally appreciate my parents setting up prepaid tuition. That paid for some of it, and then I worked full time to pay for the rest of it. And I think that teaches you a valuable lesson. When you pay for your own schooling or a good chunk of it, that really gives you an incentive to do quite well and to really stick with it and power through it. So my story on that also includes a little bit of failure. So I originally got my bachelor's degree from Northern Illinois University, and I got that in 2016. But before I got that bachelor's, I actually went out to Iowa State for about a semester and a half. That was my first school choice. So I did the program out there. I found it really, really difficult, very, very hard. I was like, whoa, I'm not ready for this. So I actually got kicked out of Iowa State because of my bad grades. And I used to be afraid to admit that, but I like to use it as a teaching moment because I want students to know that even if you're really passionate about something and you don't succeed at your first attempt, that you should not give up. You should go back, regroup, go over what happened, try and figure out what you can change if you can, and try it again, especially if you have that passion like I did. I was not ready to give up on that whatsoever. So I did that, came back after Iowa State, did community college for a few semesters, then went back to Northern, because great school, probably the best in Illinois, I think, in my opinion, for meteorology, and did 2.5 years there. And by the time 2016 rolled around, I was graduated, I had the degree, and I was like, this is really happening. So even if you find yourself in school right now and you're like, I'm terrible at math, but I really love weather or something involved with forecasting or science, don't let that deter you from, going forward with that plan. You can always try it. mean, don't be afraid to go forward, try it. If you need to change to something else, it's not the end of the world.
Yep.
We're so used to putting kids in boxes, and we tell them that, you know, you have to go to a 4-year university or you have to do that. And it's like, I think we're kind of getting out of that mindset now as a society, that if you're passionate about something, just go do it, you know? Honestly, make sure you can make a living from it, of course, but it's support yourself, but don't limit yourself to a box. You can get creative with your process.
Yeah, it's a great lesson. And
Yeah.
I think in here in Geneseo, they're doing a great job of transitioning that mindset too with the Career and Technical Center, Education Center
Yeah.
that's recently opened too, to try to shift that conversation around, you know, there's schooling options here before college, pre-college, for you to train and to go down some of these other paths too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a question for you. Obviously, you know, one of the big topics that when I'm on WQAD, we've been talking a lot about artificial intelligence. You know, it's really, you know, starting to expand in so many aspects and industries within the economy. As far as like weather forecasting, how are you starting to see artificial intelligence being used within the tools you use to predict your weather, if at all, and where do you kind of see the potential for artificial intelligence to really help the weather forecasting industry down the road?
That's a great question, because I don't get this asked a lot, surprisingly. And there are some really amazing developments with artificial intelligence when it comes to weather. Is it going to replace my job sometime down the road, or a job of a meteorologist? Absolutely not, because our job is so intricate. A lot of it, when we're making a forecast, involves your personal gut feeling. For example, you know, me living here my entire life in this region, I know some of the nuances
Yep.
of our landscape and our surrounding and what storms do to interact with that. That's something that AI really can't replicate, at least right now. So there's a big part of our personal experience that goes into our forecast. We don't come in every morning and just say, yep, this model looks good, I'm going to write down this temperature, and we're just going to run with that. What this says is what it's going to do. It's about looking at about maybe 12 solutions of different models, putting that in your mind kind of in temporary storage, and then going back and saying, okay, based on what we did yesterday and based on what I'm seeing this morning and my gut feeling, this is what I think the forecast is going to do. But the thing with AI, and we're already starting to see parts of it in our phones right now, if you have our Storm Track 8 app or a News 8 app, sometimes you'll get a lightning notification, or you'll get heavy rain has been detected in your area location, or notification on your phone. That's some early AI stuff, but I'm really excited for the more advanced AI that is coming. And that's going to be, not only will that computer power let us go back to previous storm events and take a look at certain variables and say, okay, well, we've had a similar setup like the storm that's coming in right now in X number of years ago. That computer technology and that AI can actually go back through all of that data, which would take humans years to do.
Yeah.
And say, okay, I see the variables match this storm from this date, and it could have been 75 years ago. And they can take that information, harness it, and try to compute a solution that this new storm system for this year may try and do. So there's a lot of exciting things. And in fact, one of the biggest things I think that we're going to see as consumers with AI is our warning process is going to be changing in about the next 5 to 10 years. Right now, we get a tornado warning. You get a decent lead time, 15, 20 minutes. We do these little funky looking polygons. It used to be we warned the whole county. Now we don't do that because we don't like false alarms. We really want to only warn the people that are in danger. Well, the new warning system that's going to be coming out, and it's in testing now in about 5 to 10 years, is actually going to give you a real-time threat assessment for your location. So for example, these next generation of warnings, it's going to say, right now, you have a 20% chance of a tornado hitting you in about the next 15 minutes. You'll get an update to that every single minute as this warning is issued. It'll go up to 20, then it'll go up to 30. It's real-time threat assessment. So you can make a decision in your mind if you're thinking, oh, it says it's up to 70% chance that a tornado is coming my way in the next 5 minutes now. I think that's a big alarm bell for us to say it's time to take cover. Whereas right now, we issue a tornado warning. We say it's either radar indicated or it's on the ground. Chances are if we say it's radar indicated, you're probably not too concerned. You're probably not going to take shelter. We're in the Midwest. I know how we work. I'm the same way. We get a tornado warning. Where am I at? I'm not in the basement. I'm outside on the front porch trying to find the darn thing. I'm like, where is it? And then once I see it, yeah, maybe I'll go take shelter. But that's going to be a huge thing that AI is going to help us with is this next generation warning system.
There's just so much exciting opportunities with the untapped potential. It's kind of how I like to refer to it. This untapped potential of how it can literally transform our lives and the economy and so many industries within the U.S. economy. And it's kind of fascinating just to kind of get your take of how of AI, can really kind of change in the weather outlook.
Yeah, and it's incredible. If you could think about how much weather data we are storing every single day, thousands of weather stations taking measurements every second, every minute of every day. If we just had the computer power of AI to harness, to sift through all of that data and compare it, contrast it with what could happen in the future, that's where things are heading.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, and there's opportunities too, and a wonderful story that you shared, Andrew. But let's say, though, maybe you're a little bit of a closet weather geek or what have you. There are opportunities too where you can get involved through the National Weather Service. They have their spotter programs and stuff that you can use, and a lot of times those spotters do serve as a good resource to just verify. Okay, there is radar indicated, but if you have an actual somebody on the ground verifying, that really does add a lot of valuable information, doesn't it?
Yes, I can never preach to that enough because these classes are free. And they recommend, the National Weather Service folks, if you're 8 years or older, go. It's worth it. These are your tax dollars at work. You're paying for them. Go every year if you want to, get a refresher. Because what's nice about those classes is not only are they free, but you're going to learn something. And it's not the same class every year. What's nice about our National Weather Service office is they're going to go back to previous events from the year before. They're going to explain what happened, the forecast process, why they did what they did in terms of issuing watches and warnings. So not only are you going to learn how to spot storms and look for tornadoes and the different cloud formations, but you're going to kind of get in their heads, if you will, and see why they make the decisions that they do in real time, which is really cool. Plus, they're a great group of folks. Awesome to have them.
And a little bit of Geneseo trivia. Of course, Andrew mentioned that he lives here in town. Neil Castor, longtime Geneseo resident back in the day.
That's right.
Yep. Didn't know that.
And something a little obscure, but Rich Kenny, who runs the National Weather Service office in Davenport, used to do the morning program with Rick Pierce.
Oh, my gosh.
At WGEN. Back in the day here as well. He was their sports director and kind of morning showgram type guy. So there you go. Back in the day.
Wow.
Not to put you on the spot, Andrew, but last year here in Geneseo, we're dependent on groundwater for our well system here. We implemented, or the city council, I should say, implemented, led by Mr. Kennett here.
Yeah, Kennett again.
We did have to implement a water emergency situation due to the drought conditions. It was really this time last year that things really started to dry out, and the flag started to be raised for the summer months. But any insight into, it feels very wet out right now.
Yes.
Any insight, though, into what we may have in front of us for this summer out here in Henry County?
Sure, absolutely. So right now, when we look at the long-term forecast, we look at big weather patterns like La Nina, El Nino. Right now, we're in an El Nino that is quickly fading, and we're going to transition to a La Nina as we get into the summer and the fall. So what that means is we're going to continue to see this very active spring storm system continue through at least this month, probably a good chunk of June. But oftentimes, too, as you transition from an El Nino pattern to a La Nina, you can get some drought development late summer, especially going into fall. But not a repeat of what we saw last year, right? Because we started to get in really big trouble around this time. And we're sitting pretty good. On average, most of our hometowns 3-4 inches ahead for not only the year and the season, but also the month as of last month in April. So I think we're going to have a better time, at least right now. If this pattern works in the way it's supposed to, should work out really nice for farmers too. They like to see things dry up in the fall so they can get out there and do that harvest. So I think you're going to have an easier time this year, probably less in the way of water restrictions the way we're looking.
So, Keith, you can take this to the next city council.
Hey,
on Friday, Andrew said this.
We're off the hook.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and as we've talked about on this program, we try to bring up in all public settings, the council meetings as well. Last year, we did put in place a permanent system for water conservation May 1st through the end of September every year, which simply means that we ask residents to, if you have in-ground lawn watering, sprinklers, or just somebody that hooks up the hose and likes to move the sprinkler around your yard, we ask that you do that from the hours of 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., just so we're not watering all day during the heat of the summer, and that water's really just evaporating right off of your lawn, right into the atmosphere. So, you know, the recommendation is you do that early morning. Boy, it's really loud in here today, isn't it?
You know, and I know most of that doesn't make it on air, but to Andrew, it is certainly attention-getting when they start the morning announcements here at the high school, because we have what sounds like the speaker off of the Blues Brothers car blaring.
It seems to get louder and louder. I don't know.
Not sure
Maybe
why
it's
that
just
is.
me.
It's the front office messing with us.
Now, I know where time is limited. We're quickly approaching 8 o'clock here, but I do have one question I've been wondering for years now. Andrew, we were fortunate enough, Andrew brought the Beast, the WQAD Beast, which is this, if you haven't seen it, it's this massive storm-chasing SUV with all the bells and whistles, and looks like it can literally go through a brick wall. My question, though, how fun is that to drive? And two, in the wintertime when there's snow, do you do donuts in the WQAD parking lot?
Yeah, safely,
yes. First question, it is very fun to drive, especially with the new I-74 bridge that is nice and open. My first experience with that truck when I started here, I had to take it over the old I-74 bridge next to a semi.
There you go.
To say that, I was white-knuckling it the whole time was an understatement, because I was a new employee. I'm like, if I crash this thing, I'm probably going to get fired. I'm within my 90-day period, so that was very interesting. But now it's a lot of fun to drive. I love being above the headlights, all that good stuff. And what was your second question?
Do you do donuts,
donuts
in the wintertime?
Careful.
Might be hard with the four-wheel drive.
Jim Kaiser might be listening.
He might be listening, yes. And if he is, the answer is no. If he's not, the answer is yes.
There we go.
It's the fine line between a donut and a controlled skid.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we'll call it a controlled skid. I like that. Controlled environment.
And I believe maybe if you're coming to the high school today, but is it parked out front or in the parking lot?
It is out front.
It's a monster.
There you go.
It really is. It lives up to the name Beast. It's a monstrosity.
Yes.
Well, I
you
say
can't miss it.
We fired it up and we hit the maybe the donut shop drive-through or something. That would be.
There you go.
We get hung up in the little alley there. Maybe it's too wide.
Yeah. For those who haven't seen it, too, we took a picture in front of it this morning. For those who have Facebook, for our little Live in 5 show promo, that photo is up on the city's Facebook page, too. The chamber shared it. I can see on my phone.
Excellent.
There you go. Well, Andrew, one last question for you. See if you notice this.
Sure.
But maybe if you could talk to the weather service and stuff, but see if they can do something about the wind farm radar reflection in central Henry County.
I know.
That it always looks like, maybe there's just an isolated little thunderstorm in that one spot, but it actually is the reflection off of the wind turbine farm, I believe.
It is. That's right. Yep. We're going to have to put up with that for likely another 10 to 20 years until we can get that new radar technology put into place. I think the timeline on that is in the 2030s or 2040s. So,
there you go.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, I'll pass that one off to somebody else then.
Right? Yep.
I've done my job. Okay, well, Andrew and Mark, thank you very much for stopping in this morning.
Our pleasure.
Welcome anytime. And and you're on the list now too, so we'll rope you back in, Andrew.
Every time you need a forecast or anything else, give me a call.
Perfect.
Thank you again, Andrew.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And Brandon, I know one thing we wanted to talk about here briefly as we have the battle of the announcements, but the city sent out a letter regarding lead and water and drinking water and those sorts of things. Maybe you could give a little bit of a heads up on what that's all about.
Yeah, so last week a letter went out. This was a EPA mandated letter to warn residents in the state of Illinois about the dangers of lead in the water. Got a lot of follow-up questions on this one. Wish we would have done this a little bit differently at the city. We did come out after the fact with kind of a follow-up letter on the topic. It should have been a cover letter that was attached to the mandated EPA language, which is very confusing. Unfortunately, it wasn't, but we did it after the fact. Tried to provide some clarification in there. We also have on the city webpage a link called Lead Resources that has a lot of good information for folks that some of the frequently asked questions that are coming in right now are, what do if I want to test my water for lead, or what do we do? there are resources to get tests, to test your own water if you're concerned about what's going on in your home. The program and really the surveys that went out a couple years ago where we asked folks to test their service in their basement coming in. Said, well, why did I get the letter and I tested my pipe? Well, unfortunately, it gets a little bit more complicated. Folks got letters because there's more to the equation that the EPA is mandating. The city actually has to do reviews of construction designs, drawings, subdivisions, or unearthed ground to make sure that the lines that the city owns that connect to the curb box, which is where you as a resident pick up your service and you're responsible for that line that goes into your home, we actually have to evaluate the line going out into the city mains, into the streets as well. And it's so early in the process that most people got that letter because that work hasn't been done yet. So automatically, these notices had to go out to say there could be a lead impact until full studies are completed. These studies are going to be ongoing through 2027 when the full inventory is due to the EPA. So hopefully that provides a little bit more clarification. Tried to publish some of these things in writing too. We have an FAQ sheet on the webpage. Check it out. If you do end up, you can order these tests. You can test in your home if it's a concern for you right now. If you do get a positive test, what we would recommend doing is call the city up, and we'll do follow up with you, make sure that the testing was done correctly, and provide resources from there about how to take care of things. So more to come, and we'll keep the communication lines open as this develops. This is really an initiative across Illinois that's going to be going on through the 2040s when we talk about actually getting the full inventory studies done and then actually going into line and service replacement. Huge project, huge initiative, and there'll be more coming in the future on that.
Yeah, and again, just to amplify what Brandon said, it's not just Geneseo doing this. This is all the municipalities, or even there's different water system providers and stuff in the state. They all need to comply with this requirement. But it also is one of these things, and as Brandon referenced, is we see this, we talk about this in meetings, we have discussions with staff and what have you. So this isn't necessarily unexpected, and but sometimes, we can do better when we're sending something out that we think is relatively benign and almost a boilerplate type thing. Yeah. That it can be alarming if you get a letter in the mail from the city, something about lead in our water. That the natural reaction is going to be, that kind of grabs my attention, and we should have done a better job of giving maybe a bit of explanation along with it, to where we don't want to imply that it's not something that you shouldn't be concerned with, but it's just something to be aware of, though. Yeah. Aware of that the city is looking at this. Obviously, if we're aware of anything to where we have a known issue, we're going to address that, or would have already addressed that. But there just are regulatory things that we need to comply with as a municipal water provider.
Yeah, it was a regulatory letter. Could have done better. We try to provide candid communication, like on this program, and write things in English for people to understand. So a cover letter would have been ideal in this situation. It is important to note, though, that the water department here is mandated to do tests for lead and other contaminants at distribution points around the city year-round. I believe it's mandated to be at least 40 tests that they do throughout the year. Testing our water, we have to produce annual water quality reports. All of those contaminants are candidly laid out in that report that has to be submitted through the EPA. They're on our website as well. So those things are done. And we'll continue to update the conversation as the program progresses here, though.
Yep. There you go. So we learned from it. We also learned another thing, Brandon, and you know what that was? Don't put Alderman Craig Arnold in charge of public relations communications. Because we're going to point this one to Craig. Nah, just kidding, Craig. Just kidding.
That wasn't me, Craig. That was Keith.
We can do that. A little good-natured aldermanic humor and stuff. But
yes, luckily the aldermen get along well, and you can do these types of things, right, Keith?
Now, Craig and I won't be talking, though, for a little while. But we'll get past it.
Hey, as long as you don't, throw something across the room in the council meeting.
That still lives on.
And remember, positive. Brandon, if you do get a call from Gavin Newsom, it goes straight to Keith.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely. We may point that call to the chamber, actually, since Zach threw that one out there.
Right.
Zach, expect a phone call.
Perfect.
Yeah, before we wrap up, I do want to mention, too, that this is garage sale weekend in Geneseo. You're going to see signs out. Last night there were a lot of signs going up. This is one of the two big weekends where we encourage citywide sales. Excuse me. Folks, check that out. It's a great economic driver. I mean, it brings people in from the Quad Cities, visit garage sales, visit our local downtown shops, check out State Street, check out the Oakwood Avenue corridor and all the other stores in town, and stay and dine in Geneseo, too, while you're checking out everything. We also have intentionally curbside cleanup immediately following this weekend, following garage sale weekend. That's happening Monday through Thursday. This upcoming week, check out the city webpage or Facebook for what quadrant you're in and when they will be by to pick up your junk pile. That's all I have today.
Well, there you go. And Andrew, shout out too for the nice weather you have happening today and tomorrow for the big garage sale.
Hopefully tomorrow.
Weekend. Tomorrow, I think, is, well.
A little dicey in the afternoon. We'll see.
Yeah, by noon it's wrapped up.
Get out early.
Sales. Exactly. Right. Yeah. Okay, well, with that, that's going to wrap it up for us here on WGRG. Again, thank you, Mark and Andrew, for being with us. Brandon, always a pleasure. To all our listeners, have a good Friday, have a good weekend. And again, you're listening to WGRG 100.5 FM in Geneseo. Have a great weekend.